Devout. Faith alone is not always sufficient to shield the righteous from their enemies, and so the Devout was crafted to guard the Protectorate's leaders from heretics. Every component lends to the Devout's ability to protect its master. It is light enough to keep up with the fleet-footed warcasters, and it uses the enhanced mechanical reflexes to intercept attacks or bring weapons to bear against the foe drawing too close to its ward. Its massive shield is sanctified with holy inscriptions from the canon of the true law to protect its controllers from the accursed magic of heathen sorcerers. When the vassals of Menoth were commanded by the Synod to produce a warjack capable of guarding a warcaster, they wasted no time in applying their considerable expertise to the task. After rejecting the workhorse Repenter's chassis as too cumbersome, they chose instead to design the Devout from the ground up to ensure its suitability to its vital purpose. Though the Devout prototype still made extensive use of the smuggled components, its cortex was developed entirely within the Protectorate. More advanced than older counterparts, this cortex allowed the Devout to develop a whip-like reflex and a watchful intensity, which together with its heavy shield make it the perfect bodyguard. Like a faithful hound, its every reaction is tuned to the flow of battle as it positions itself between the warcasters and those who would strike him. And again, like a lot of light warjacks of the menoth, he is pretty quick and pretty good to have around any warcaster, and he's not all that expensive, so you want to have at least one of him if you have a more squishy warcaster. But let's read his stats as well. His initial service date is 579 AR. His height is 8 foot 7 inches. His weight is 3.9 tons. His fuel load is 387 pounds. His general use is 7 hours. His combat use 75 minutes. And I imagine 75 minutes because his watchful gaze is very on all the time, so he's probably very protective of his particular warcaster. His armaments include a polearm and his great shield, and his cortex was manufactured by the vassals of Menoth, and he's currently being manufactured right now, so that's always exciting. But let's read over his Mark 3 to Mark 4 changes and see if anything has changed. I am guessing probably not. And let's start with his stats as always. He is a speed 5, mat 7, defense 13, armor 16, and what he has is he has the ability to trample, he has the ability to headbutt, and his special abilities include defensive strike, same as Mark 3. Once per turn, when an enemy model advances and ends its movement or is placed in this model's melee range, this model can immediately make one basic melee attack against it, which is something I've seen a lot of in the Protectorate army as of recent. So very dangerous ability that is, to strike first before anybody even has the chance to stab you. So, but it can only be used once, thank goodness. So if you get a whole unit in there, and they're not going to be just wiped like that. His second ability he has is Shield Guard, and that's the same as a Mark 3. So when a friendly model is directly hit by a non-spray range attack while within 3 inches of this model with Shield Guard, you can choose to have this model be directly hit instead. That model is automatically hit and suffers all damage and effects. The model can use Shield Guard only once per round. It cannot use Shield Guard if it is incorporeal, knockdown, or stationary. Shield Guard can only be used once per attack. Now, the special rules we have to take into account here is it has to be directly hit. So if somebody shoots your warcaster or whoever you're trying to protect and it misses with like an AoE, this model cannot intercept a missed AoE attack, unfortunately. Also, it's a non-spray attack. It has to be an actual gun. So there we go. One of the spells that this guy actually got removed is Spell Barrier. So no longer in Mark 4. Spell Barrier, what that did was while the model was base to base with its battle group controller, the battle group controller cannot be targeted by enemy spells. I imagine they just took that off because it's way broken. So yeah, being able to protect from spell, give them basically spell ward is a very dangerous spell anyway, because well, very protective. But that's how it works. Balance and flow make it a little bit easier to play. His weapons include his shield, which gives him a +2 to his armor as long as he has his left arm. His shield is also a weapon, thank goodness. I noticed in Mark 4, most models that have shields now can also use their shield as a weapon, so it gives them an additional melee attack, which is phenomenal for solos and units, because then it really puts out their damage input by quite a bit, so always useful to have. His shield is a Mat 7 range 1 POW 11, and his polearm is a Mat 7 range 2 POW 13. No special abilities on the polearm. It is just a pokey stick. So, but 13 is nothing to be looked at. So, you know, if he has a solo run up on him trying to kill him off, which I don't know why any solo would want to run up and try to kill off a warjack, but that happens. This guy can poke him with a nice little 13 and most likely tear asunder whoever they're poking with it. All in all, a very useful jack at a cost of 8 points. You can squeeze at least one of him in as a protection notice for your warcaster, so always useful to have. But let's move